So, Miss Sonia, if you could tell us a little bit about your childhood, as in just to get a background, as to where you were born, how was your upbringing?
Yeah, sure. So I'm born and brought up in the UK.
Okay.
My parents are from Delhi, so they came here in the 60s and 70s. So I was born and brought up here. My childhood, normal Asian childhood. We had the differences within the culture, and we had the normal family issues in trying to live a fairly culturalized life in a UK society.
Right.
So we had those challenges, but that was all fine. I studied, had a career, and then I chose to get married. And that's when things changed.
Okay.
That's when I had the family issues. It didn't really go my way.
Okay.
But up until that point, just a regular Asian girl living in the UK, I suppose.
All right. And so how's your professional life? You're working as a?
I'm working as a finance manager currently.
Oh my God. Okay. That's nice. So was this a arranged marriage or a love marriage, or how was this? How was it?
It was introduced. I was introduced to my ex-husband.
Right.
And actually my plan was to actually live in India. He's from India.
Okay.
So I moved to India for a short period of time, for a couple of years.
Oh,
and then we moved back to the UK. And it just didn't work.
It didn't work. Okay.
It just didn't work.
All right. So when did you realize that this probably is not going to, go a long way?
Around 2010, 2012, 2010, there were some red flags. 2012 was when I decided, right, this isn't going to work, and I need to maneuver my way out of the marriage. And that's when I hit the hurdles.
Okay.
That's when the real problems came.
Right. So if I'm not being too intrusive, and if you're okay to share, so can you enlighten us about a little bit about the red flags? Was it abuse? Was it compatibility issues? Or
it was, in honesty, it was a multitude of things. It wasn't just one thing. There was some issues at the beginning, and being very honest, I told my family about them, and they said, no, you can't come home. So I think because he'd kind of already got the idea that, well, she can't go anywhere.
Right.
For my mum and dad, he was the golden boy. He could do no wrong.
Right.
My mum put him on a pedestal. He was the king, right? So we'd go over for dinner, and she'd buy kya khaoge. It doesn't matter about me. Doesn't matter anybody else. It was all about him. So he kind of, I think, got into it. Well, I can do no wrong.
Right.
He's kind of in this situation. So, and then it just kind of, the details of the situation just got worse.
Right.
And it just became a very volatile situation to be living in. It was very, very acrimonious. It was very difficult. But for me, irrelevant of the situation that you're in, if you are unhappy for whatever the reason, you should be allowed, or you should have not allowed. You should have the support of your family to want to leave.
Very true. Yes.
It doesn't matter what the reason is, but if you're genuinely unhappy, it doesn't matter if it's A, B, or C, the reason.
Right.
That support from your family should be there. And that is what I'm trying to advocate across India and even the UK, that families need the support. Sons or daughters, if they're unhappy.
Right.
And then also encourage women that if you're unhappy, you can leave. It's not the end of the world. It's life after divorce. Right. So those are the things that by coming on these shows and stuff is my main aim, to say it's okay to go, but it's also the older generation need to really understand.
Right.
That we're deeply unhappy.
Right. So you said your family was not supportive in this decision. Yes. So did it hinder the process and the process to begin from your end? Did that come into your mind? Okay, my family is not going to agree. I need to wait, or I need to try and work things out. Did you do that?
So between 2010 and 2012, I really tried to make it work.
Okay.
2012, we separated as in we didn't have a husband-wife relationship, but we were still under the same roof.
Right.
My family wouldn't let me come home. So then I thought, okay, we'll stay as a family unit, or I will try. And then in 2014, I just couldn't stay as that family unit.
Right.
So I then started, I'd given up my career at that point as well.
Oh, okay.
So I ended up working for my mum and dad. And
Okay.
he was working for my mum and dad at that point.
Okay.
So then I left working for my mum and dad, which was really hard.
Right.
He carried on working for mum and dad, and I left against their wishes. But we were still living under the same roof, because until 2017, my family weren't on board. It took me from 2010 to 2017 to convince them that was going to be the right thing for me.
Right. Oh my God, that's like 7 years.
Yeah, that was the bigger battle than actually the divorce.
Right.
The divorce had its own battles.
Right.
The battle of convincing mum and dad that I would be better off as a single parent, single mother.
Right.
Was harder, and our finances were all tied in together.
Right.
So we couldn't make that move without their support. It was virtually impossible.
Right. So everything is entangled, you know.
It was very entangled, which made it even harder.
Right. True. How are they now? Are they okay?
Yeah, my dad passed away in June, but that's okay. They came on board. They came on board by the time it all came out. It came to light. So it was all done. So yeah, they came on board in 2018. Right. And then 3 years of divorce.
Right.
But by that, then they did come on board. Yeah.
That's a nice thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Finally. Yeah.
Right. So at least you were independent women. You were working, even though probably a few bad choices here and there, but then you had a career to, to support you in the sense. There are many women, especially in India, I think, who are not independent, even though they are educated, they're literate, they have degrees, they're masters, but yet we just chose sometimes not to work, or under the influence of family, under the influence of husbands, and also with the burden of kids and household stuff. There's so many women who don't end up working. I think that's so much of it probably pulls you back to walk away from an abusive or an unhappy relation.
100%. My job was my savior.
Right.
Not just from a financial angle, but from an emotional angle.
Right.
Financially, yes, I needed the job, but emotionally, I needed that job.
Right.
So yes, for me, my job saved. So I went back to work in 2014.
Okay.
And then I rebuilt my career slowly. I went back working part-time, then rebuilt it over the years. But if it wasn't that job, I wouldn't be where I am now. And it gave me emotional stability.
Right.
It was an escape from what was going on at home. It was somewhere I could go, focus, and not have to think about what was going on at home the whole time. Because if you're sitting at home thinking about all the bad stuff, there's no positivity. But the job gave me hope and positivity, for sure.
Right. How nice. Yeah. Otherwise, it'll just engulf you, right? It's just going to
100%
gulp you in. Right.
Yeah.
It's a nice thing. So you mentioned you have children, or you have a kid.
I have 2 boys.
2 boys. Oh, okay. So it must have been hard for them this transition must have been hard. How did you manage that?
It's been difficult. They've had their ups and downs. They have ups and downs with me. They have ups and downs with their dad. They witnessed things they shouldn't have seen. They've witnessed arguments that I wish they hadn't.
Yeah.
It has had an impact on them and their relationship with their dad and with me, understandably.
Right.
I think they know it was the right thing to do.
Right. Okay.
There was no way we could have carried on living in that environment. It was just not sustainable or the right thing to do for them. And for me, none of us were happy.
Correct.
The 4 of us, including my ex-husband, none of us were happy. So it's not just about me and the kids. He was unhappy, I wasn't happy, and the kids were unhappy.
Right.
Why stay in that situation?
I know. Very true. Makes sense. Yes.
Yeah.
So you mentioned it's been a 17-year-long battle. So probably the first 7 years where when you took time to convince your parents, probably this is. So what about the next 10 years? Why did it?
It was 12 years all in all. So from 2010 to 2017, we were kind of battling with each other and the family. And then 2018, we filed for divorce. And then it wasn't until 2021 that after all the court cases, and it wasn't even custody because the kids are old enough to make their own decisions. It was more over finances. But he didn't make that process easy.
Okay.
There was a big battle over that, and then finally it all came through and we went our separate ways. He still sees the children, he still, you know, doesn't live too far from where we are now.
Right.
But
Right.
the 3 years, that was more divorce and legal obstacles.
Legal
and then
ops.
well, also you can make it as easy or as hard as you like, and unfortunately it didn't make it very easy.
Easy.
No, and in the end walked away with what I was offering in the first place. So could have just done it
I know,
without
right.
spending all that money on court fees, but
Right,
you learn, I suppose. So.
Right. It just proves probably you took the right decision, you know. Very
Yeah,
good.
no, absolutely. I don't regret.
Yeah.
My mum actually asked me really recently, a few months ago, like, do I regret my divorce? I was like, no way.
No ways.
It was absolutely the right thing. I was deeply unhappy, deeply miserable. I was crying every day on the way to work, dropping the kids, picking them up. I was walking on eggshells, living in a state of anxiety. It was awful, is an understatement. I smile now.
Right.
That's what it comes down to. I don't live in that fear anymore. So I absolutely 100% made the right decision when I decided to have that divorce.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So what advice would you give to women, you know, who are going through this abuse on a day-to-day life, or what are the things they need to take care before they actually make up their mind, okay, this is the path I'm going to choose from now on?
It's a difficult one because finances are involved in it. So depending on where you're, like, as you said, a lot of people in India, women in India aren't working. So it's really a big problem, because if they're going to leave that marriage and they've got children and their ex-husband isn't going to support them and their family aren't going to support them, then what are they going to do?
I know, true.
So if you're going to make the choice that you want to leave, you've got to have something under your belt.
Right.
Yeah. If your family are going to be supportive and they're going to take you back home, then absolutely, it's fine. You've really got to have some kind of stability before you make that move. But, yeah, but if you are in fear of your life, if there is an actual fear of that, then you should leave no matter what.
Right.
You know, it's not easy. It's not an easy decision, and it's not a step or decision I made overnight.
Right.
It was building up, and I was like, actually, do you know what? I can't do this anymore.
Right.
And one of the things I noticed, that as a mum, even as a mum, I wasn't the best mum, because I was so enwrapped in everything going on at home with my ex-husband. I wasn't giving them my best. I was an emotional wreck. So for the sake of my children as well, I had to make that choice. Now, if you feel, you have to do a lot of soul searching, you need to take time out, you need to sit with your thoughts and decide, what are you deeply unhappy? Because taking that step for divorce is actually not an easy decision. It's actually a harder decision. Staying. And when the old generation go, oh, no, you should stay, they should realise when we make that choice to leave, it's actually the tougher road of the two paths.
Yes, right. That's a very good point. Yes.
They don't realise that. And they think, oh, you just decided you want a divorce. When I got married, I didn't think, oh, I'm going to get divorced. I got married for life. Now, if I've woken up and I've decided one day that actually I need this divorce, that's a really tough road to choose.
True.
It has its challenges. But if, as a person, you are deeply unhappy and you've lost yourself and there is abuse, then you absolutely have to get out. Because also, what are you teaching your children?
Right. True.
So my advice is to take stock of what's going on, think about it carefully, don't make a rash decision.
Right.
Try and find support as well. Now, I know in the UK now there are certain groups like Asian single parents, and there's various groups. I didn't know about them when I was going through my divorce. I wish I did, because it would have changed my emotional journey, because I thought I was by myself doing this. Right. But there's lots of other women in similar situations to me. And then it's about sitting down with the family and explaining it to them that you are deeply unhappy and this isn't an easy decision to make. Right. And if your friends are supportive as well. My friends were supportive.
Hmm.
But it varies. Just some friends understand, some friends don't.
Definitely, yeah. True.
Yeah.
Sorry. So you mentioned that you had a party
I
for
do.
this, and I think a very unusual one for that matter. Probably like the bouncy castles and unicorns
Yeah.
and all. So what's the idea behind that?
So after being in such, I don't even have the words for anymore.
Right.
Such a situation for 12 years. Like, my home wasn't my home.
Hmm.
It was somewhere I came. It wasn't my safe haven. I
Right.
didn't enjoy my space at home. My kids didn't enjoy the space at home. So once we were free in our own home, I just wanted to celebrate me, my life, the journey I'd come through.
Right.
And so I threw a party, and it was like, yeah, I'll have it in my back garden. And then I had kids coming, so I thought I'd get a bouncy castle. I'm very colourful. So it just ended up having this theme of unicorn.
Right.
It was to celebrate me and my new life, and thank everybody that helped me on my journey.
Right.
For 12 years, all I did was cry.
I know. That's a long time.
It was a long time.
It
honestly.
is a wife's life, and that's probably the peak years of your life where you
My
could have
whole of my 30s,
right.
half of my 30s, half of my 40s were, honestly, when I say cry, that is literally, I cry on the way to school, dropping the kids. Cry on the way. It's all I did. So I wanted the old me back. And so I threw this party. Little did I know that this one party would help others. And I'm so glad I'm so glad it is helping others.
Of course, yes,
Because there is life after divorce. It isn't all doom and gloom, but we are to believe it's just doom and gloom. But it isn't. It is what you make it. And you own your story, you own your journey, and you'll be fine. But if you hide behind the fact that, oh my God, I'm divorced, no one's going to talk to me, I'll be outcast from society, then they will make you feel like that. But if you empower yourself and you take a stance that actually, I'm doing the right thing, I'm going to own my story, I'm going to own my job, then nobody can say anything to me.
True. That's fair. That's a very good point you put across. Yes.
Yeah, you have to own your journey. You have to own your story. And then it doesn't matter what people say, because you know you're right.
Right. Correct. So how do people perceive you now? As probably you could compare the Desis versus the UK people there. Is it different? Is it?
I mean, I have not been to India in a long time now. It's been about 6 years, I think I have been there. But my family are all there, like my cousins, my nieces, my nephews. And when the story went viral, my nephews, and he's like, "Boy, you're trending in India, you're going viral." I mean, they were super proud. And my other nieces have said, like, "We want to be like you, we want to be strong." So from that generation, and my cousins they're really happy for me and they're proud. The older generation still, like, even my own mum, even now my mum will still say, there'll be a little bit where she's like, she still thinks I should have stayed. An element of her still thinks. Yeah, I should have just stayed. And like, absolutely not. Over here, unfortunately, there are still families here that do not support women that are going through divorce. I've met quite a few women over the last year and a half that are having the same problems that I had. Families are outcasting them, they're not getting the support they need. And it's really sad that they don't understand that being abused is not the right thing. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's a bit of a mixture of things.
Right.
So, and people won't, if people think I've done wrong, they're not going to tell me to my face. So
True. So Ms. Sonia, how do you think we can bring about this change in the mentality, this change in the thought process? Probably with time it may improve, but that's a very long time which we are talking about. Should there be some curriculum in school or colleges or something somewhere where we can put it in the parents' mind as well as in the youth? Probably if you are not happy, take a step back, or just I hope you
yeah, I think in schools it's really important. Schools should obviously teach the view that you have an opinion, you have a right, you're a human being. Like, being an Indian woman, you're a daughter, then you're a wife,
Mm.
then you're a mother. Where are you?
Right.
Where do you get a chance to be you? You don't.
Mm. Right.
I'm now in my 40s, I'm me.
Mm.
Right? But I think India is though changing from what I know. Like girls are going to school, they're getting educated, and then they're having a career.
Right.
And that is changing.
Mm.
It's definitely changing. But with the older generation, it's harder because they still have the view that getting married, having children is really important. And it is important if it's the right thing for you.
Right.
But the only way we can change society is by educating them.
Educating. True.
Educating them and telling them that people have lost their lives because they've not been happy.
Right.
People have taken their own life because they've not been happy. Or unfortunately, women have been killed by in-laws and things because the families haven't listened.
Yes.
On the other side, if I had a brother, my story would have been very different.
Oh, you think so?
100%. If I had a brother, he would have taken me home.
True.
I wouldn't change now my journey because it's made me me.
Right.
I wouldn't change it at all.
Right.
It's made me who I am. But I do think it's important to educate society. And that the only way around it is education. So with social media now, with all these things that we do have now in place, we can educate the older generation. But even my cousins that are, say, a generation older than me, they're now understanding. They're now beginning to see that, yes, staying in an unhappy situation is not the right way. We don't deserve that.
Yeah, definitely true. Nobody, yes.
Yeah. So, yes, we can fend for ourselves. We're not these weak women that people thought we were.
Of course,
hundreds of years ago. We have options, we have choices.
Right. Oh, that's nice, Miss Sonia. Yeah, this is it. We just wanted to know how your journey has been and, how your... but do you intend to do anything more in regards to educating women or trying to help them? Or do you have anything in mind in the near future?
So I'm part of a network here called Asian Single Parents. So I do a lot of work with them, and I have been asked myself, some people like to give motivational talks. So yes, when they happen, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm always interested in doing stuff like that. So if anyone wants to come and talk or talk about life after divorce or how I got there, then yeah, absolutely, because it's really important to help others.
Yes.
And I've met women and then they've phoned me up and said, can we just talk? So I'll go and have dinner with them. So just by being there for somebody on a one-to-one level or even in a group level has made a difference, because you can make them realize that they're not by themselves. We have been there, because you get to a point where sometimes I just wanted to give up. I'm like, no, do you know what? I'll stay.
Right.
No, it's really hard when you're in that battle all the time.
Right.
And it's just emotionally draining. It's exhausting. Absolutely drains everything out of you. And you're working and you've got kids and you've got paperwork to fill in for divorce and
it's difficult.
It's very difficult.
Right. All right. Somebody to see it from our perspective, I think it helps so much. Yes.
It makes a big difference.
Big
to
difference.
have somebody else that understands what you're being through. And I've made so many new friends that now are either going through it or have been through it. But when I was doing it by myself, there wasn't a single divorcee in my circle.
Oh my God, that must have been very difficult.
It was, nobody understood it, and there was nobody either there to tell my parents, because my parents wouldn't talk to anybody about it. But if they'd spoken to people, then I think they would have got maybe the right advice that, like, no, you should maybe help her. But because they didn't want to talk about it because it wasn't normal, it just made the whole process really, really painful.
True. So, but how is your ex-husband now? Are you in talking terms, or has he realized his mistakes, or which led to... It could have turned the other way around. It could have been
anyway. And he could say, well, has she learned her mistake? So I wouldn't say anyone's made... I'm very fair like that. I wouldn't say anyone in particular is to blame, because there's always two sides to every story. But for me, yes, he sees his children. I don't really speak to him very much. There's too much water under the bridge. A lot of stuff has happened. Irrelevant. My thing about been an advocate for women and normalizing divorce is it doesn't matter who's in the wrong or right, because if you're unhappy, you're unhappy. You may have got married at 20, and at 40 you're like, this is just not what was right for me. Situations which are a lot worse where you are being abused,
Right.
and it's definitely not okay to stay then. It's definitely not okay. But it is hard. It's a really hard journey. But there is life afterwards.
True.
100%. It's worth doing that journey.
I know, it's worth celebrating.
It's worth doing that journey. It's worth celebrating because you live once.
Yes, true. Very true. Make the most out of it.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, true. Thank you, Sonia, Ms. Sonia Gupta. It was lovely talking to you. I hope this short episode helps somebody change their mind, helps somebody take a decision. And I also hope if somebody's in doubt or if they need a shoulder to talk or a shoulder to cry on or just talk, get ideas, they contact you. Hopefully, we will try and circulate your contact on the social media. Yeah, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.